Welcome back to MFO, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another episode. It's only been a couple of weeks, and already we've got a major show going on here, drama show with all of the DQs and the fines and even guys quitting leagues, and to the point where I've had to do this video 3 different times because the topic that I was going to talk about changed the day that I was putting it out, and I had to add more to it. There is so much going on and some inside information that we want to share with you with all the fines, the DQs, and the defections that are going on with Bass in the last week or so. Stick around, guys. Welcome back to Mark Fisher Outdoors, everybody. I'm Mark Fisher. I think a lot of you guys know I owned a school, a private school for special ed kids for a lot of years. And one of the things that I had occasion in those 33 years that I owned the school is there would be situations where we would run into issues with employees, where we would have to let somebody go. We would have to issue some kind of a sanction for some inappropriate behavior. And there was a situation in particular that happened years and years ago where a person said, hey, if you do this, I'm going to come back at you and I'm going to sue you and your organization for, in this case, discrimination. And so you better not, fire me, or you better do this. And my response at that point was, hey, you know what? I've got the proof that I need to show that you didn't do the right thing. And if you're going to sue me, because I'm going to end up winning. Now, yes, it's going to cost me to fight that. But if if I'm in the right, I'm going to stand up for doing the right thing. I don't know whether, I think that Bass is trying to do more of the right thing as opposed to slide things under the carpet, except I'm not sure that they're willing to go as far as they need to go to, hey, if this is what it takes, we'll fight you for it if we have to. Let's get into some of this and talk about the details. And I think that there are 3 of them, and it goes back to the first Opens event on Sam Rayburn. Jaden Parrish ended up taking 5th place, and it came out that he solicited some information, or allegedly solicited information from another angler about where he was catching him, and never got a response to that. And again, this is all alleged information. When Bass got that information and interviewed, they decided that since there was never a response to that solicitation on Jaden's part, they decided to fine him without actually DQing him. So he still got 5th place, he still got his money, he was just fined as a result of that alleged solicitation for information. Now we move to the Matt Herren situation, which was on the first Elite. And again, allegedly, Matt gets some information from his son about where there were fish being caught. What Matt does, and again, this is the information that I'm aware of, is that he decides to just completely stay away from that area, not going to go to it, not going to do anything that is shady at all. And however, the information comes out during a polygraph that he did have that previous information, and so he ends up being DQ'd and fined. And his choice then is to then turn around and say, you know what, I've had enough with Bass and I'm quitting and I'm just going to go fish the MPFL. So a couple of things on that. Number one, Matt Herren has always been kind of vocal about the fact that he wasn't happy with the direction that Bass was taking. He hasn't been happy at Bass. He actually, prior to this first event, had indicated that he was going to fish both leagues, both Bass and the NPFL. Now, with this happening, he said, hey, I'm just going to go fish the NPFL. I don't know what's in Matt's mind. I don't know whether he's looking at it like, well, since I got DQ'd, I can't make the Classic anyway, so I might as well not fish Bass any longer, and I'm just going to focus on NPFL. Or, hey, I haven't been happy with Bass, and this is kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, and I'm going to just be done with this. I don't know, but it's kind of interesting that there's a delineation, and these things happen pretty quick after another. The open situation and then the elite situation, where one guy solicited information and got fined, another guy heard information and got DQ'd. Now, let me also say that the rules are written differently from the opens to the elites. In the elites, it is specified very specifically that the consequence is to be DQ'd. In the opens, it doesn't have that specific language that says that has to happen. Now we move to the third issue, which is Scott Martin, who, you know, if you listen to his Instagram post and things like that, is working in his boat, gets some information, starts talking, and doesn't shut the conversation down quick enough to where he gets some information about water clarity, and at this point self-reports to say that he got this information, which ends up in a DQ. I know that in the course of watching these things on the internet, there's a lot of support, you know, for the individual anglers. And I'm not saying that, you know, we're all fans. We have our anglers that we're fans of and that we support. But, you know, when you look at it, is Bass doing the right thing by taking a different stance compared to last year about the no information rule? Well, I think you have to. And I think we've been talking about the fact that you have to. So from that standpoint, yeah, it's going to look different when all of a sudden after 2 events or 3 events, you've got a number of infractions. That's kind of the thing that's going to happen when you change a rule or you start enforcing a rule. It's going to take a while before guys go, hey man, I got to pay attention to this. But that's okay. That's how people learn. That's how people go, hey, this is something that we can't do any longer. So we might balk about it. We might choose or want to side with the anglers. But if we're saying that the organizations really have to come down hard on rule violators, this is what's going to happen. And we have to stand by that. And I do. And the other part that is important to understand as a spectator is what we see on somebody's Instagram page doesn't necessarily mean that that's exactly the way that it happened. I can tell you guys that there's a lot of buzz, a lot of phone calls, a lot of text messages amongst anglers that are saying, hey, you know what? There's more to these stories than is just getting put out on the internet. There's video evidence of this happening and that happening. And from that standpoint, people may not be as innocent or as unintentional as they may want you to perceive them as being. And so, you know, from that standpoint, I think we just have to take that with a grain of salt and understand that there are definitely 2 sides to this. And quite honestly, everybody has a side that they want to put out there. Now, the thing that I'm still going to be critical of Bass about is if you're going to come down on the rules and you're going to say that these are the rules, then you have to be willing if you have the information, you have to be willing to put the money up and say, hey, you know what? If you're going to take us to court, take us to court. We'll fight you in court and we'll show that we had the proof to make this decision, and be willing to go out there and do that, as opposed to allowing some misinformation to get put out there that makes you as an organization look like you're wishy-washy or not true. You know, if you as an organization are looking at it like, hey, you know what, whatever that person says, we got our point across, we DQ'd him, you know, for that infraction, but public opinion says, well, maybe you shouldn't have done that. I wonder whether or not that is enough, or whether you should be willing to come out and give all the information about what happens. I'd love to hear what your opinion is, and I might be wrong. And again, when that story that I told in the beginning of that was several years ago, lots and lots of years ago, and so times may have changed. But you know, I'll tell you, it cost me the money. I went and defended it. I paid as much money to my attorneys as I would have to a settlement for that guy, but I was willing to pay my attorneys and be right and be shown to be right, as opposed to just settle and be done with it. Times have changed, I get that, but I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are. I know a lot of you guys are going to just say, hey, it's tournament fishing and I'm so sick of tournament fishing for these reasons, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. You know, I just keep struggling for an answer because I love competitive angling so much that I want to get an answer, and I wish there was an easy one for sure. Guys, we appreciate you tuning in, and we will see you again tomorrow for another episode of Mark Fisher Outdoors. Take care, everybody.